everyone, greetings to my lecturer and fellow classmates. Today, we would like to present a train ticketing simulation at KTMB Arau. I'm Mardziah binti Aziz Jafar and my other four teammates with SHAHIRAH, SHAMIEN, NORSAFURA and SABARINA will present our research study.
Background of Kereta Api Tanah Melayu KTMB. Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Berhad KTMB is the main rail operator and one of the public transportation that been provided by the state to the public in Peninsular Malaysia. The principal activities of KTMB are to operate railway transportation and the provision of related railway services in Peninsular Malaysia and Singapore. Currently, there are total 167 stations and halls with 53 KTM and ETS stations in Malaysia. KTMB mission is to be preferred and affordable rail transport provider for people and goods, while their vision is providing safe, reliable, comfortable and sustainable rail services on time and every time. For now, KTMB has offered various services which are KTM Cargo, Electric Train Service which is ETS, KTM Intercity and KTM Commuter. Lacking of the performance from a big company services like KTMB, the company cannot avoid from getting any issues related with the management or customers. Since this service aims to ease the public movement, whether in rural or urban area, KTMB need to operate more systematic, effective and efficient in order to attract more people to use it. Therefore, it is necessary to improve the quality of KTMB services in Malaysia. Thus, the study will specifically focus on the waiting time and ticketing system which need us to analyze the arrival time and service ticket rate at the counter of the KTMB station. In this study, we choose KTMB Arau Police Station as our location to observe the system, and our study will be based on this location. We will observe the system between the operating time of 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. Next, there are 4 characteristics that need to be considered to run this queuing model, which are first, the arrival characteristic, which is we analyze it in infinite population of customers, since there is no limit to how many customers can be serviced and due to random arrival walk-ins either in groups or individuals. Next, the second is the waiting line characteristic, which in this study, we assume an unlimited queue length with first in and first out FIFO queue discipline where customers are serviced in order of arrival and the customer with the longest wait time is serviced first. Third, a service facility characteristic where the server is a multiple channel system with 2 open counters and 2 queue line which separated for counter KTM commuter ticket and ATS ticket. Then, for the service system, there is only one phase to complete the service or known as single phase system. For the pattern of service time, it is assumed to be at random for both counter. Thus, the basic queuing system for this model is a multi-channel single phase system. For the problem statement, the first issue that experienced by KTM commuter and ETS user is relatively long waiting and queue time. Half of KTM commuter customers were not able to board the first train during peak hours and had to wait for up to the third train to continue their journey. Other than that, the ticketing system itself is not convenient, especially during peak hours. Moreover, at Arau station, there is no implementation on using contactless card, which will drag a lot of time. These have increased waiting and overall journey time. So, by conducting this queuing model, we will analyze the waiting time and service time at the counter to review the efficiency of the models in terms of utilization and waiting length.
Next is the main objective of the study.
The main objective of the study is to determine whether the existing ticketing system is reliable to be implemented in the KTMB Arau, and the first specific objective is to measure the average waiting time and queuing time of the customer at KTMB Arau. And the second specific objective is to determine the utilization rate between the 2 counters, which is ETS and commuter.
The flowchart shows the simulation process at Kereta Api Tanah Melayu Berhad Arau. The simulation started when passenger arrived at the KTMB Arau. Firstly, passenger will queue at the counter to purchase either commuter or ETS ticket. The service time of purchasing the ticket for both commuter or ETS usually take 1 to 3 minutes. However, long queue usually occur at commuter counter, especially during peak hour around 4 p.m., as lots of passengers use public transport at this hour. ETS ticket counter queue usually not as long as commuter. This is probably because passengers prefer to use commuter rather than ETS. Besides, ETS ticket can be bought online through KTMB apps. The process ended when passengers get their ticket.
Next is the data collection method. In this study, primary and secondary data were used. Secondary data were obtained from a research paper, which is from Petal 2012, to use in this study to find the probability distribution. Next is the primary data that were obtained from the cells to find the random number from 1 to 100, and the data were run on an arena simulation. Next is the scope and limitation of the study. The study has been carried out in KTMB Arau, and the data collected started from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. since the peak hour at KTMB Arau is at 4 o'clock. And at KTMB Arau, only two counters are available, which is ETS and commuter counter. Next, the scope of the study is focused on the ticketing system of KTMB Arau. And the limitation of the study is, since COVID-19 pandemic hit Malaysia, all the students have to carry out their classes online. So, all the researchers are at their home right now, so they are having a difficult time to making a discussion. The researchers also have a limited time since the study is only carried out for 3 months. Furthermore, the data used in the study is not reliable since the primary data is not collected from KTMB Arau. Finally, the researcher also have other classes to attend and continuous assignment to complete since the researcher is a final year student this semester. Next is the data description. There is 3 data that were used in this study, which is inter-arrival time, service time of ETS counter, and service time of the commuter counter.
Analysis of input analyzer. We use input analyzer to get the distribution and expression to include into the ARENA model. There are 3 analyses of input analyzer. The first one is time between arrival. The distribution of time between arrival is log normal. The expression is 1 plus log normal 60 17.4. The second one is service time commuter. The distribution of service time commuter is exponential, and the expression is 30 plus exponential 32.4. The last one is service time for ETS. The distribution of service time for ETS is exponential. The expression is 30 plus exponential 31.8. Validation and verification method. Based on an article by Patel, Chaudhary, and Patel 2012, the method that they use is hypothesis testing. So there are 5 steps in this test. The first step is to state the null and alternative hypothesis. So H null is the value is not significant. H1 is value is significant. Step 2 is to determine the test statistic. The test statistic that was used in this study is confidence interval. The third step is to determine the critical value and decision rule based on alpha level of significance. So the critical value is T alpha over 2 and minus 1. The alpha value is 0.05. The decision rule is reject H null if confidence interval contains 0. So the fourth step is to calculate the value based on sample data and make a decision. And lastly, draw a conclusion.
For the create module, we modified the name from default create 1 to passenger arrive and changed the entity type from default to passenger. In the time between arrival dialog box, we acknowledge the default expression for the type and change the default expression of 1 plus log normal 60 17.4 and pick the seconds as unit from the drop-down list. We acknowledge the defaults for the 3 boxes in the bottom row of the dialog box and press OK to save the changes. For the ticket counter process, the action for this phase that we pick delay release suggests that we want this module to delay for a period that represents the operation time, and finally resource release units so that other entity can seize it. We define the resources to be seized or published in the resource box. Press add to add a resource and define the resource name as ticket counter stuff with a quantity of 1 second. The delay form that we selected is expression of 1 plus log normal 60 17.4 and selected the seconds as units from the drop-down list. For the decide module, we have decided to use two-way by chance since passengers need to choose between commuter and ETS, and percentage for commuter was set to 65%, while 35% of it belongs to ETS. The process module will be used for commuter process. This module is like the ticket counter with the exceptions of the name, resource name, and expression. Resource name as commuter staff with quantity 1. The daily type we have selected is expression 30 plus exponential 32.4 and selected the second as the units from the drop-down list there and click OK to save the changes. The process module will be used for ETS process, resource name as ETS staff with quantity 1. The daily type we have selected is expression 30 plus exponential 31.8 and selected the second as the unit from the drop-down list there and click OK to save our changes. The dispose module represents entities leaving the model boundaries, we name as exit.
Validation and verification for output. In this research, we have 4 outputs, which are waiting time for commuter, waiting time for ETS, utilization rate for commuter, and lastly, utilization rate for ETS. So we use confidence interval for average of this output. The first confidence interval for commuter waiting time, it is negative 0.1023 until 1.1294. For ETS waiting time, it is 0.03612 until 0.1715. For commuter utilization rate, it is 0.5766 until 0.762. And lastly, for ETS utilization rate, it is 0.2252 until 0.3776. So the decision of this test, we reject H null for ETS waiting time, commuter utilization rate, and ETS utilization rate. And while we also accept H null for commuter waiting time. This is because in the confidence interval of commuter waiting time, it contains 0. So we need to accept H null for commuter waiting time. And lastly, for conclusion of this test, we conclude that value of ETS waiting time, commuter utilization rate, and ETS utilization rate is significant, while the value of commuter waiting time is not significant.
Based on the ARENA simulation result, the replication time is 180 minutes. The average waiting time for passenger is 0.38050 minutes and the maximum waiting time for passenger is 4.4675 minutes. The average total time of passenger in the system is 2.4145 minutes, while the maximum total time of passenger in the system is 5.8738 minutes. For the ETS queue waiting time, the average is 0.10807 minutes, while the maximum is 1.123 minutes. While the average commuter queue waiting time is 0.52058 minutes and the maximum is 4.4675 minutes. As seen in the discrete change variables, the total number of passengers that are still in the system is 3. The number of resources in the system is 3, which is ticket counter staff, ETS staff, and commuter staff. The utilization rate of the ticket counter staff is 0%, ETS staff 34.407%, while commuter staff 62.48%. From the output, we can see that number of commuter in is 111, while the number out is 109. Thus, this proves that there is still 2 passengers still in the system of commuter. All 62 passengers of ETS has out of the system. Meanwhile, the total number of passengers in is 174 and the total of passengers out is 171. Thus, it proves that there is still 3 passengers in the system, which 1 at the ticket counter and 2 at commuter. For the alternative arena model, we have decided to add a staff at commuter. This is because there is a lot of passengers who choose to use commuter as their favorite public transport instead of ETS, maybe because of the cheaper price of ticket. And this is the arena simulation model for the alternative arena model.
Summary of the whole result obtained. The study is to analyze the number of open counters that should be taken into account and to minimize the queuing for customers to buy tickets. Hence, from the results of the ARENA software, it is shown that the utilization rate of KTM counters is higher than the ETS counters. With that being said, it clearly shows that the demand of the customers to go to the KTM counters is more than the ETS counter. The reasons of this to happen is because the ETS ticket can be bought through the KTMB online services while KTM ticket only available through the counters at the train station. Besides that, the price of the KTM ticket is more cheaper than the ETS ticket to go to the destination. Customers that go to the ETS counter is the customers that walk in to buy the ticket, exchange the date ticket, asking regarding the train time, refund ticket, and more. Furthermore, the number of customers is less than the customers at the KTM counter. The time of the KTM train is really close to each other. For example, the first train is 6:44 am and the next train is 7:30. This may lead to the high number of customers at the KTM counter while the ETS counter is less because the time between each train is not close as KTM train. Hence, the utilization rate of KTM counter is higher than the ETS counter. Plus, the queuing time at the KTM counter is high too. Recommendation. The first recommendation is offering counter. To make the management run smoothly and avoid queuing, open more counters should be done. This is because day-by-day public transport is more important in this modern era and the population increases year by year. Hence, open more counters will be the best solution to solve the problems in the future. In order to stop queuing when there are more passengers than normal, KTMB should have at least 1 open counter for ETS and 2 open counters for KTM. This could also make it difficult for passengers to miss their trains. In addition, KTMB can train workers who are capable of multitasking in order to open the idle counters during the peak hours. Other than that, in order to assess the number of idle counters that are suitable for all stations, KTMB can analyze the number of passengers using the station. The second recommendation is the signboard at the counters should be clear. At KTMB Arrow, the counter put a small signboard about KTM and ETS counter where this could lead to confusion among customers, especially the first time customers arrive at the KTM Arrow. The customer could go to the wrong line. For example, he or she wants to go to KTM counter but go to the line for ETS counter. This could lead to a problem where he or she must go to the correct line and it will affect the queuing. As a result, it will make the customers become confused and the queuing line become longer. That will lead to insufficient and ineffective ticketing system. Hence, the grid signboard at the counter should be considered so that it will be easier for passengers to purchase the ticket correctly by getting separate tickets counter. Therefore, it is possible to stop queuing and have the management at the counter ticket so that it will run smoothly and customers can encounter a fantastic and fast service that can make the KTMB have a great reputation because of having a separate counters for different tickets and have a good signboard so that it will not give confusion to people. Next, using touch and go or debit or credit card to pay the ticket. This is the best alternative to make everything run smoothly because it took the shortest time to pay the ticket instead of using cash. It will lead to delay because customers or the counter itself do not have change for money, especially in terms of coins. Moreover, the ticket price is not in integer number of price but have a cent. For example, 3 ringgit and 90 cents from KTM Arau to Alustar. Hence, the change of money may be difficult. By using this, it will make it easy for all parties, make the ticketing system run smoothly and can reduce the waiting time. Conclusion. This study was done to optimize the number of effective and efficient counters at the train station that is in KTMBR Perlis. For this study, ARINA software is used to analyze the optimization. And from the result, it is clearly shown that the utilization rate of KTM counter is higher than the ETS counter. 1 open server was sufficient for ETS and 2 open servers for KTM were sufficient in overcoming any congestion or queuing problems at the selling and buying ticket counters. This can improve the ticketing service and customers will have favor since the waiting time can be reduced plus the queuing line can be reduced too.